Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, before you joined the FBI, you had very strong opinions about what the FBI was hiding regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In a September 2023 interview with Glenn Beck, you said the Black Book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. In December 2023, you said, let us know who the pedophiles are. Even for a short time after becoming FBI director, in February of 2025, you tweeted, quote, there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In June, you told Joe Rogan, quote, we've reviewed all the information, we're going to give you every single thing we have and can. But then suddenly in July, everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files, and you started a giant cover-up. So you are under oath, Mr. Patel. You just testified to Mr. Swalwell that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
This is a developing story from Capitol Hill, where a high-profile congressional hearing has brought renewed focus to the investigation surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and the handling of related evidence by federal authorities. Lawmakers questioned FBI Director Mr. Patel during a tense session marked by sharp exchanges, repeated demands for clarity, and conflicting interpretations of investigative actions and past statements. The hearing opened with a line of questioning directed at Mr. Patel regarding his prior public comments before assuming leadership of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Lawmakers referenced multiple statements he had made in 2023 and early 2025, including remarks suggesting that key materials related to the Epstein case were under the direct control of the FBI, and that there would be full transparency with no omissions. These earlier assurances, according to members of the committee, appeared to contrast with more recent actions taken in July, when a memo and a single video release indicated that no further disclosure would be made, despite the reported existence of more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. During the exchange, one lawmaker questioned whether the shift in approach was connected to the presence of high-profile names within the files, specifically suggesting that former President Donald Trump may have been referenced. Mr. Patel, speaking under oath, stated that he had not discussed the Epstein files with the president. When pressed on whether Attorney General Pam Bondi had done so, Mr. Patel responded that he could not speak on her behalf and did not provide further clarification on that point. The discussion then turned to media reporting, with a reference made to a Wall Street Journal article, alleging that in May, Attorney General Bondi informed the president that his name appeared in the Epstein files and indicated that the Department of Justice did not intend to release those records. Mr. Patel did not confirm or deny this report during the hearing, maintaining that he could not comment on the Attorney General's communications. Lawmakers also revisited Mr. Patel's prior testimony to Senator Kennedy, in which he stated there was no credible information that Epstein had trafficked girls to other individuals. This statement became a focal point of contention, particularly when members of the committee raised concerns about the credibility of survivors who had come forward with allegations. Mr. Patel rejected the assertion that he had dismissed victims as not credible, all stating that such a characterization did not reflect his position. In response, a lawmaker described testimonies from women who had come forward, stating they were groomed and abused as minors. These individuals, it was said, had sought meetings with federal authorities, including the FBI and the president, to present their accounts. Mr. Patel was asked directly whether he had met with these individuals. He did not provide a clear yes or no answer, instead emphasizing his role as FBI director and the agency's responsibility to evaluate information presented to it. As the exchange continued, tensions escalated over the framing of questions and responses. The committee chair intervened multiple times to manage speaking time and ensure that both lawmakers and the witness were able to complete their statements. Disagreements arose over whether Mr. Patel was directly answering questions, particularly regarding the credibility of victims and the handling of evidence. Mr. Patel reiterated that the FBI has consistently encouraged individuals to come forward with information related to ongoing investigations and stated that any new credible evidence would be reviewed. He also noted that the evidence currently in possession of the FBI was the same material previously available to the Department of Justice under prior administrations, including those of Presidents Obama and Biden, and that determinations about credibility had been made during those earlier reviews. The hearing also included broader claims about the actions of previous administrations and the handling of Epstein-related investigations. Mr. Patel stated that victims had come forward during the previous Trump administration and that indictments against Jeffrey Epstein had been authorized at that time. He contrasted this with claims that the issue had been dismissed in other contexts, though these assertions were met with further questioning and procedural interruptions. As the allotted time for questioning expired, the chair formally concluded this segment of the hearing and recognized the next speaker. However, the exchanges left several key issues unresolved, including questions about the extent of evidence reviewed and the criteria used to determine credibility. This opening phase of the hearing set the tone for what would become a deeply divided and highly scrutinized session. Lawmakers signaled their intent to continue pressing for answers, while Mr. Patel maintained that the FBI's actions were consistent with legal constraints. The hearing now moves into its next phase, raising further questions about past investigations and institutional accountability. As the hearing continued, the focus shifted to a new line of questioning, led by another member of the committee, introducing a broader political and institutional context to the discussion. The lawmaker began by acknowledging the intensity of the exchanges that had taken place, noting that the hearing had been both extensive and difficult over the course of 2 days. While indicating that there were many issues affecting the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the speaker stated that it was necessary to address the Epstein matter in light of the ongoing debate within the committee. The lawmaker then turned attention to what was described as a lack of concern from certain members in previous years. He questioned why, in his view, similar urgency had not been demonstrated earlier, asking where the attention to the Epstein case had been in prior sessions of Congress. He referenced past appearances by former FBI Director Christopher Wray before the committee, stating that Epstein-related questions had not been raised during those hearings. According to the speaker, this absence of earlier inquiry stood in contrast to the current level of scrutiny. Continuing in this direction, the lawmaker described what he characterized as a sudden increase in focus. He further stated that this change, as he saw it, did not reflect a consistent concern for victims over time, raising questions about the timing of the current emphasis on accountability. The lawmaker then addressed the broader issue of institutional trust in the FBI, referencing a period in which public confidence in the agency had been damaged. The FBI is under scrutiny as lawmakers raise concerns over civil liberties and the targeting of religious groups. Specific examples cited include claims that certain religious individuals and parents at school board meetings were labeled as extremists. Lawmakers questioned how the agency is working to rebuild trust among these communities. In response, leadership emphasized a new focus on transparency, allowing the public to review agency materials directly. Officials stated clearly, the FBI will not investigate individuals based solely on their religious beliefs or affiliations. Investigative efforts will instead prioritize criminal activity and national security threats. Addressing concerns about biased sources, the agency confirmed a review of investigative processes to ensure neutrality. The goal remains focused on criminal conduct, while protecting the homeland and upholding public trust. As the hearing continues, the focus remains on the critical balance between security and civil liberties. While choosing not to use explicit language, he indicated that he believed the tone and substance of some remarks did not reflect the seriousness of the institution. He concluded his remarks by encouraging Mr. Patel to focus on uncovering information while avoiding what he described as past instances of politicization within the FBI. The hearing then transitioned to procedural matters, including a report describing the dismissal of a case involving an alleged leader of the MS-13 gang. Multiple articles related to the Epstein investigation were introduced, including reports that the DOJ had informed Donald Trump his name appeared in the files. Separate articles described internal efforts to identify references to prominent individuals, though some of these requests encountered objections. Lawmakers expressed concern that the American public is not convinced that no additional information exists or that no broader conspiracy occurred. The hearing continued with intense scrutiny of both past and present handling of the Epstein case, setting the stage for the next phase of the discussion. As the hearing moved forward, the next phase of questioning focused more directly on investigative methods and financial evidence related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. A member of the committee raised concerns about what she described as inconsistencies between the stated goals of the FBI and its current actions regarding the case. She referenced Mr. Patel's earlier statements, including his assertion that the FBI would follow the money in its investigations, and sought clarification on how that principle was being applied in this instance. The lawmaker pointed to recent reporting that indicated 4 major banks had flagged more than $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions. According to the lawmaker, these transactions suggested the possibility of a broader conspiracy linked to Epstein's activities. She then asked Mr. Patel whether the FBI had reviewed these financial records in full. In response, Mr. Patel stated that the FBI had reviewed numerous suspicious activity reports, commonly referred to as SRs. However, he indicated that he did not have the total number of such reports available at that moment. When asked if he could provide that number at a later time, Mr. Patel confirmed that he would follow up with the information. The questioning continued with a focus on whether any new investigations had been initiated based on the recent reporting about these financial transactions. Mr. Patel responded that he would need to consult with the Treasury Department, noting that it holds primary responsibility in matters involving financial oversight. This response prompted further questions about coordination between agencies and the extent to which financial data had been used as part of the broader investigation. The lawmaker asked for specific figures on individuals subpoenaed regarding Epstein's financial transactions. Mr. Patel stated he would need to work with the Treasury Department to obtain accurate information. The discussion then turned to Epstein's legal representatives and their role in facilitating transactions. Patel noted that investigations in 2018 and 2019 likely included many of those lawyers. On subpoenas, Patel confirmed the FBI is already working with Congress under an existing request. Patel then clarified his previous comment, describing the probe as having an original sin. He explained that early search warrants were restricted to a narrow window from 2006 to 2007. This limitation meant that information outside that 3 to 4 year window was not collected. Subpoenas were not broadly issued, and many individuals were not brought before grand juries. This reduced the information gathered, contrasting with what would have been a more comprehensive approach. The lawmaker then asked why, given these limitations, the FBI under Mr. Patel's leadership had not conducted a more expansive investigation to address those gaps. In response, Mr. Patel stated that legal constraints prevented the agency from retroactively collecting information beyond what had been authorized by courts at the time. He referenced the existence of a non-prosecution agreement stemming from earlier proceedings, and noted that subsequent investigations in 2018 and 2019 had again been limited to the conduct of Jeffrey Epstein himself. He emphasized that these constraints were based on legal decisions made in the past, rather than current policy choices. While acknowledging that the scope of those decisions could be debated, Mr. Patel stated that the FBI's actions were bound by those existing legal frameworks. The lawmaker responded by reiterating her concern that the investigation was not sufficiently addressing the possibility of a broader conspiracy. She stated that, in her view, if the goal was to fully understand the scope of Epstein's activities and any related networks, a more comprehensive approach would be required, particularly with respect to financial transactions and associated individuals. She then sought to enter additional materials into the record, including a report discussing the role of a major financial institution in facilitating Epstein's activities, as well as another article emphasizing the importance of following financial trails. These requests, however, were met with objections and were not accepted. Following this exchange, the lawmaker concluded her remarks, and the chair recognized another member of the committee. This next speaker introduced a formal motion under committee rules, proposing that the committee issue subpoenas to the chief executive officers of 4 major banks. The request targets J.P. Morgan, Bank of New York Mellon, Bank of America, and Deutsche Bank. The purpose of these subpoenas is to obtain suspicious activity reports related to approximately $1.5 billion in transactions involving Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Lawmakers argued that the scale of these transactions warrants scrutiny, noting that similar reports were obtained in investigations with much smaller sums. The request was made amid concerns that relevant information has not yet been fully disclosed to the public or the committee. In response, the committee chair stated the motion to subpoena would be held in abeyance, while noting that testimony had been forthcoming so far. The hearing reflected a continued divide among members regarding the FBI's handling of the investigation and its decision not to release more data. Mr. Patel maintained that the agency examined available evidence, and determinations on disclosure were based on legal and appropriateness considerations. The FBI continues to encourage individuals to come forward, stating that any new and credible evidence will be thoroughly evaluated. Another key area of focus was the credibility of victims and witnesses. Lawmakers pressed Mr. Patel on whether individuals who had come forward with allegations were considered credible. While Mr. Patel did not provide a direct yes or no response in the terms requested, he emphasized that the FBI assesses evidence based on established investigative standards, and that prior determinations regarding credibility had been made during earlier reviews conducted under previous administrations. The hearing also highlighted differing perspectives on past investigative decisions. Mr. Patel described limitations in earlier stages of the Epstein case, including restricted timeframes for search warrants and a narrower scope of inquiry. He stated that these factors constrained the amount of information collected and continue to influence what can be pursued under current legal frameworks. Lawmakers, however, questioned whether additional steps could still be taken to address those gaps, particularly in relation to financial records and potential co-conspirators. Financial evidence emerged as a significant point of discussion, with references to large volumes of suspicious transactions flagged by banks. While Mr. Patel confirmed that the FBI has reviewed numerous reports, he indicated that further details would require coordination with the Treasury Department. Requests for specific data, including the number of individuals interviewed or subpoenaed, were noted but not immediately answered during the hearing. Procedural actions taken during the session also underscored the ongoing effort to expand the scope of inquiry. Members sought to introduce various reports and articles into the record today. Some of these reports were accepted, while others faced significant objections from committee members. A motion to subpoena bank executives for additional financial records was formally proposed. However, the committee chair deferred a decision on that request until after the hearing concluded. Beyond specific cases, the hearing addressed broader concerns about the FBI's role and public trust. Mr. Patel outlined steps being taken to improve transparency and ensure investigations are conducted without bias. He focused particularly on religious institutions and other protected forms of expression. Lawmakers expressed differing views on past actions and the urgent need for institutional reform. This reflects a wider debate about the agency's core responsibilities and its public accountability. As the session concluded, no final determinations were made regarding the outstanding questions. However, several commitments were noted, including Mr. Patel's agreement to provide more info. Ongoing coordination with other government departments was also confirmed during the hearing. The motion regarding subpoenas remains pending, and reviews will continue beyond the hearing. The chair recognized the next speaker as proceedings move forward, closing this segment. The issues discussed today remain central to the committee's ongoing examination of the case.